invoice and then receiving the payment and then recording the deposit. But in a restaurant or in a retail store, you just enter a daily sales receipt. So in a restaurant, you probably got some cash register, right? And so at the end of the day, it spits out a report and says, well, how much food, how much drink, you know, I would think if your restaurant's going to spit that out. And so what you want to do in QuickBooks is just enter a daily sales receipt. So for every single day, you would have one sales receipt for Monday, for Tuesday, for Wednesday. And on that sales receipt, you would do it just like you would have items. So like you might say food sales, and you might say drink sales, and then you might say sales tax collected. So let me just run through that a little bit. Let me, I'm gonna do my share screen. I guess, I think everybody should see my QuickBooks screen now. Can you see that? Okay. Yes. All right. And so last week we talked mostly about creating an invoice. And you remember, you do an invoice if they're going to pay you later. But in a restaurant, you got paid instantly. And so that's why you do a sales receipt. The same way with churches. After Sunday service, you do a sales receipt for every single person and say, well, Betsy gave for tithing, and Billy gave for the youth fund, and somebody gave for the WMU. So those are the items that you would use on your daily sales receipt. So if I click on create a sales receipt, it looks very similar to an invoice, but it's just a little bit different. And so let's say we have different stores. And so let's just say it's our Shelby store. So I'm going to create a customer called Shelby Store, or you could create a customer just called customer if you wanted to. But when I type in Shelby Store and I tab over, it's going to tell me I don't see Shelby Store in your customer list. And so I'm just going to do a quick add just so I get that name out there. Quick add, okay. And so on this daily sales receipt for my restaurant, I might want to say, well, this is what my Z-tape that came out of my cash register says. It said you did food sales. So what I'm doing is I'm getting ready to create a new item. And so when I tab over, it's going to say, I don't see that item. QuickBooks did not find food sales in your list of products and services. So I say, well, let me create it. So I say yes, okay. Then I've got to say what type of item I'm setting up. So if you didn't get those handouts, if you'll let Steve know, he will email them. Or if you want to email me, I'll be glad to email them to you directly. Let me go ahead and give you my email address. It's Jeff@QBX Accounting. Jeff@QBXaccounting.com. So you can drop me an email and say, I'd love to get the handouts for the class if you don't have them. Because in those handouts, we talk about different types of items. And so the main two that we use are either service or non-inventory. Last week we talked about inventory, and hopefully everybody understands that really you don't want to get into inventory in QuickBooks unless you're in some kind of store that you buy a product and just turn right around and sell that product. That's when you would use inventory. But otherwise, you're probably not needing to use inventory in QuickBooks. So right now, this would be food sales. So let's say it's not that big a deal whether you called it a service or a non-inventory part, but food is something. So let's call it a non-inventory part. It's not inventory. We're not keeping track of our food, but it is a thing. So let's call it non-inventory part, okay? And so down here on the description, I'm going to write food sales. That's what's going to pop up on my sales receipt. And so every day I sell different amounts of food. So I'm going to leave that at 0. And the thing about this is, do I want to flag this as taxable or non-taxable? In a restaurant, I would say let's tag it as non-taxable, even though you did collect sales tax, right? In a restaurant, you would collect sales tax right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So, but I'm going to flag it
Yeah.
as non-taxable for right now. And then the last thing I've got to tell it is where the money you make from these food sales, where do you want it to show up on your profit and loss report? The financial report that's going to tell us how we did. So I do my drop down right there. And so what type of account would I want to put it under? If I've made money, what type of account?
Sales.
Product sales.
Sales, but
Yeah, I think it's
It's
sales,
an
product sales.
income account.
yes, it is. That's the type of account it is. It's an income account, but the name of it is sales. And so when I'm looking right here, I see 3 income accounts: installation services, maintenance services, and product sales. And I don't really like either one of those, so maybe I want to create a new one called food sales. So right here on the fly, I can create it. So where it says account and it's blank right now, if I don't like the 3 that I got to choose from, if I just type it in, food sales, and when I tab over, it tells me it does not see that in your chart of accounts. A while ago, we were setting up an item. Now we're setting up something on our chart of accounts. It says it's not in the account list. So I'm going to say, let's set it up. Now, just like items, there's different types of accounts on your chart of accounts. And so when I do the drop down, I can see all the different types. There's 16 different types of accounts. But right now, I'm wanting to set up an income account. So I'm going to choose income. The name of it is food sales. That's perfect. I'm going to hit save and close. Okay. My item is now completely set up. Anytime I use food sales, it's going to end up under food sales and income account. So I'm going to hit OK. All right. So I've got my sales receipt from my Z-tape at the end of the day to tell me how my food sales went. Let's say you sold $800 worth of food. Okay. And so you can list as many names as you want to. I mean, you could say, you could break it down in drink sales and food sales, or you could break it down as detailed as you want to, which most people, they kind of break it down according to their POS system, what their point of sale system spits out at the end of the day. They might say, well, you did bar sales of this, you food sales of this, and you did specialty drinks of this. You can break it down to as many categories as you want. But let's just say, all right, it said you $800, and I want to look at that Z-tape, and that Z-tape is going to tell me exactly how much sales tax I collected that day too. So I'm going to create an item that's going to track my sales tax. So I'm going to create an item called sales tax collected. These item names can be anything that you think, anything you need to track. You've got to put it on a sales receipt. You have to have an item. So I created an item called sales tax collected. When I tab over, it says, I don't see that in your list of products and services. So I said, yes, I'd like to set it up. I'm setting up another item again. So on sales tax collected, let's choose other charge. Okay. Those handouts will give you some direction on which a type do you want to sales tax collected. Okay. So let's say that on my Z-tape, my cash register, it said you collected $42 worth of sales tax. So I'm going to put in 42 and tab. I'm going to say this is non-taxable, because that would just be a big old loop if I say that's taxable. It's non-taxable. But now it wants to know what account on your chart of accounts do you want that money to go sit in. So I'm going to do my drop down, and I'm looking at my chart of accounts, right? And remember, my chart of accounts, everything from income down, income minus cost of goods sold minus expense tells you if you made money or lost money. But there's some accounts up top, and that's where I'm wanting to put this sales tax collected, because it's not income to me. I'm just holding it for the government, right? So it's not my money. It's not income to me. And so I'm going to roll up my chart of accounts until I find an other current liability to put it in. Now this one that's out here that says sales tax payable, that one is more designed toward if you did an invoice and you sold something and you said it's taxable, down at the bottom it would collect the sales tax. So this QuickBooks can handle a lot of different businesses, and every business uses QuickBooks in a little different way. And so restaurants uses it in this way. So I'm not going to use that liability account. I'm going to create my own called sales tax collected, because I'm a restaurant, and when I tab over, it says, I don't see that in your chart of accounts. So I say, well, let's set it up. Okay. So it wants to know what account type do you want it to be. I want it to be an other current liability. A liability means that I've got to pay it later on. It's a liability. Like if you had a loan, that would be considered a liability. If you deducted payroll taxes from people, that would be considered a liability. You're just holding that money until it's time to turn it over to the government. So that's the way this sales tax is. I'm just holding the money. Okay. So I'm going to hit save and close. Okay. So now my item is all set up. I'll never have to set it up again. So in fact, on the amount right there, I'm going to put 0 because on my item, I always want it to pop up 0. So I'm going to hit OK. But then when it pops up on my screen, when it's on my screen, that's when I go in and plug, well, we collected $42 of sales tax that day. Okay. All right, so we collected $842. And on a sales receipt, you tell, in a restaurant, you tell how you got paid. And so you come down to the next line, and we're going to create an item and say how I got paid. And so maybe you got some cash, so I'm going to create an item called cash payment. And when I tab over, it's going to say, well, I don't see that in your list of products and services. So I say, well, let's set it up. So now it wants to know what type of item do you want to set up now? And we would choose payment. So it's really good to get those handouts because that's going to give you some more training on these different types of accounts. And we're going to create the word cash payment. So the payment method is going to be cash. And we're going to group it with other undeposited funds. That means when I hit save and close, it's going to go sit in an area called undeposited funds. So that's great because you might have cash from Monday, and then you'll have cash from Tuesday, and then you'll have cash from Wednesday, but maybe you don't go to the bank until Wednesday. And so then you would grab your Monday cash, your Tuesday cash, and your Wednesday cash and take it to the bank. Okay? So undeposited funds basically means it's sitting on my desk. It's there with me. Undeposited funds. It hasn't went to the bank yet. Okay? So we've got that all set up, so I'm going to hit OK. Okay? So let's say we collected $350 in cash. You'll notice that on my screen here, it went a negative $350 because I've told it on my screen, I've told it what I sold, and now I'm saying how I got paid. And it says, well, you need to account for another $492. And so I'm going to say that was credit card payments. So I'm going to come down here on the next line and put credit card payment. Tab over. It says I don't see it. I'm going to say let's set it up. Again, what type of item am I setting up now? I'm going to choose payment type. Okay. The description is what pops up on the sales receipt here. And so I want it to say credit card payment. So the payment method, they usually all go together. So I'm just going to put Visa, MasterCard, Discover all together. I'm just going to use one, a Visa. That's the most one. Group with other undeposited funds. Yes, I do want to do that. So I'm going to hit OK. Okay. And so let's say the rest of the money was credit cards, $492. And so basically I've created a zero sales receipt at the end of the day. Now this thing can get a lot bigger than it is right here. I can have as many items and maybe even a couple more payment methods too. Like if I sold gift cards, I might have a gift card sales account, and then maybe I have a gift card redeeming account. So if you know, you might want to get some, help, when you're really starting your business out to get it set up the right way. Okay. So now this 350, the 350 and the 492, when I hit save and close, they're going to go sit in undeposited funds. So I'm going to hit save and close. Okay. Immediately over here in undeposited funds, it tells me you've got two things sitting in undeposited funds. And when I click on it, I will see those two things, that $350 cash and the 492 credit card, right? Now, tomorrow, when I look at my bank statement, I'll probably see where that 492 got deposited on into my check register, right? Because it batches out at the end of the day, and then it shows up in your bank account. So what I'd want to do is I would hit choose it, and when I choose it, then when I say OK, it's going to move to the screen that's behind it. So when I hit OK, it's going to go from undeposited funds, and then I can put it in whatever checking account I want to. Let's say I'm just going to put it in my main checking account. Okay. So I'm going to hit save and close. So now there's only one thing still sitting in undeposited funds, that cash. If I hit record deposits, I can see that cash sitting there. So I'm not ready to run to the bank today, so I'm just going to leave that cash sitting right here in a bag, and then in a couple days I might take it to the bank. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. So let's go look at our P&L report and see how things look. So I'm going to go to reports, company and financial, and then profit and loss standard. Okay. So as you can see right there, it shows food sales, $800. So on my P&L, it doesn't tell me anything about the $42 of sales tax because that ain't my money. That sits on the balance sheet. Remember on the chart of accounts? Everything from income down shows up on the P&L report. Everything from equity up shows up on the balance sheet. And this one account right here that's called sales tax collected, $42, I'm just waiting to turn that into the government. Okay? So as you see, all of these registers, they're all registers. Money flows in those registers and money flows out of those registers. When I open up that sales tax, because I did that sales receipt, that's why $42 is showing in that register. But when I pay the state, when I write that check, I'm going to hit this liability account and I'm going to empty this thing out. I'm going to give them the $42. Okay. So let me just go and do you one more real quick. So I'm going to go back to the sales receipt. Okay. When I clicked on it, it showed me a blank one. But if I say go back one screen, there's the one. Nope, that's a different thing we did, a sales receipt. Going back right there. That's the one we just did, right? So every day I'm going to go like I did that one on September the 3rd. So the next day I'm going to do one for September the 4th. Instead of me having to redo this whole thing again, all I'm going to do is create a copy. Up top it says create a copy. And so I'm going to click create a copy. It says a duplicate sales receipt has been created. And I'm going to hit OK. So this is my duplicate. So then I'm just going to change my numbers. I'm going to change my date to be September the 4th. I'm going to say our food sales that day was $550. My sales tax that day was $35. And let's say I got cash payments of $200. And let me do 0 and it'll do the math for me. I'm off 385, and so the rest was on credit cards, 385. So basically you zeroed out a daily sales receipt. So I'm going to hit save and close. Okay. Now it's showing there's 3 things in undeposited funds because I just put 2 more out there. So if I click on record deposit, and this happens in QuickBooks, sometimes when you click on record deposits, I'm expecting it to show me what's sitting in undeposited funds, but this has been like this ever since I started working with QuickBooks. Sometimes it misses it, and if you click on payments, it will bring it back. If you click on payments, that little button that says payments, it will refresh and show you what's in undeposited funds. So again, like I said, my credit cards are going to batch out every night, and so I'm expecting what I thought was I got paid in credit card. That should be the exact amount that hits my bank the next day. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and grab it, and when I hit OK, it's moving from undeposited funds into my bank, and I'm going to even date it the next day, September the 4th. It doesn't matter if it didn't hit my bank till the 5th or the 6th or whenever. I just try to keep it associated with the day that this happened. That on that day of September the 4th, I did collect $385 in credit cards. So I'm going to hit save and close. So now I'm down to 2 things in undeposited funds. So do you understand about undeposited funds? That's what I was saying is like, it could sit there, you could receive checks, multiple checks, but they just sit there until you're ready to take them to the bank. And then when you're ready to go to the bank, you grab everything you want to take to the bank. I could grab all the cash and all the checks and come up down here at the bottom with a grand total, and that's what I want to take to the bank. So you want to record it in QuickBooks exactly the way it's going to look when you get your bank statement. You're not going to see these entries one by one. You're going to see them coming together. So I'm going to record a $550 cash deposit. So I chose those 2, and when I hit OK, they move to your deposit screen. And so in this deposit screen, I'm going to deposit $550. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Great. So I'm going to hit save and close. Okay, so let's go look at that P&L again. Again, if I've got my QuickBooks set up the most efficient way, I had this open windows turned on over here. Remember that was under view. If you turn on your open windows, right now it's off. But if I go to view and turn on my open windows, I can see all the different screens I've been going to, and it makes it real easy to jump around. I could jump to my chart of accounts, that rolls to the top. If I want to jump back into my profit and loss, if I click it, that rolls to the top. It's just constantly rotating all the time. So here's my P&L now, and so I'm just seeing January the 1st through the 3rd. So remember I entered a sales receipt for the 4th, and I'm not seeing those figures. What's the first thing I should think about?
Just changing it.
Why am I not seeing it?
Because it's on the 4th, the last one you did.
That's correct. So I've got to adjust my dates. If you're looking for something and you don't see it, if I change my ending date to be January the 4th and tab, now I'm seeing it. And so if I even it says food sales $13.50. And if I double click on that number, I can actually see, yes, on the 3rd, we took in 800. On the 4th, we took in 550. Now, it don't matter about how you got paid, cash, check, whatever. These are your food sales for those days, okay? All right, so let me close that. All right, so we did some work the other day too, so I'm going to change my dates to be all. I'm going to go over here and change my dates to all transactions, because last week we did some maintenance services and we did some product sales. So I'm seeing everything now. And I like to, when I'm looking at this P&L report, I like to show columns, not by total only. This is total only here, but if I say show it to me by month, then I can actually see, okay, well, this is what happened in August, and then this is what happened in September. Okay. All right, so let's go to the home page. Okay, so last week we talked a lot about creating invoices, and today we've talked about doing sales receipts. And so you kind of, it's according to what type of business you've got, which one you're going to do. They're both making, both of them are making you money. Both of them are just basically alike. On an invoice, you use items. When I open up an invoice, there's a blank one. If I go back one screen, there's the one we did last week. I sold lawn maintenance, which was a service, and I sold 2 bags of fertilizer. So those are items. If they paid me instantly, I could do those very same things using a sales receipt. That's the difference of when do I do an invoice and when do I do a sales receipt. An invoice, they're going to pay you later. A sales receipt, you got paid instantly. There's nothing wrong if you want to be consistent and always do invoices. Let's say they paid you instantly. You can do an invoice, but then instantly you're going to do a receipt payment. So you're doing 2 things when with a sales receipt you could do one thing. Because on a sales receipt, you're saying how you got paid. Somebody have a question?
Yes, I have a quick question. On last week we talked about the cost of goods for restaurants. So what would be my difference in doing sales receipts per day? I know I keep up with the income and money, but when do I do the cost of goods?
Okay. The cost of goods is when you go buy your food, right?
Okay.
When you write that check to what's those delivery people, U.S. Foods, you know?
Yes, U.S. Foods. Yes.
When you write that check to U.S. Foods, that's when you assign it to that cost of goods sold account.
Okay.
So these things, when I'm doing invoices and I'm doing sales receipts, I'm making money. It's income then. But when I have to go buy food so I can make the money, that's when it's a cost of goods sold. Okay?
Okay, that was the difference you were telling me. Instead of me doing an inventory, I would just do cost of goods.
Always put it to cost of goods, because food turns over so quick, you don't want to get into inventory at all.
Okay.
I mean, you know, your food might even go bad, spoil, or whatever, and you got to throw it away or anything. But by you paying for it, you know, whatever you paid for it, if it does go bad, it ain't going to get you no benefits because you already paid for it. So,
right.
So let's just go back to the home page. This is what I'm saying, is always go back to the home page. And so if you, when the U.S. Foods delivers the food, now you can either write them a check instantly, or you can enter a bill and say, I'm going to pay you in a week or 2, right?
Okay.
So that's your choice. Either one, you're going to assign it to cost of goods sold. Okay. So let's say I'm going to pay them instantly. So I'm going to say, I'm going to write them a check. They just delivered it. It's cash on delivery. So out of my main checking account, and see, I can write it out of any bank account I see there. Any one, I can point to it. But out of my main checking account, I'm going to write U.S. Foods. Now, when I tab over, I'm setting U.S. Foods up as a vendor. Anybody you pay is a vendor. Customers pay you, you pay vendors. So when I tab over, it says U.S. Foods is not in the name list. It's calling it a name. I say, do I want to do a quick add or a setup? I do a setup if I need their address and all that stuff, but I can just do a quick add just to get their name out there. So U.S. Foods, I want to set them up as a vendor. Okay. So let's say I had to pay $500 for some food. And so I'm writing it for $500. It's dated, let's date it September the 1st because I sold food on the 3rd and the 4th. So I had to buy it before I sold it. So it's right here under account is where I'm going to assign it to a cost of goods sold account. So if I do the drop down, QuickBooks is very intuitive. It thinks you want to assign it to an expense account, but we want to assign it to a cost of goods sold account. Like I say, both of those get minused out of your income. So it's not that big a deal whether you called it an expense or a cost of goods. It makes more sense to call it a cost of goods, but they both get minused out. So if I look at there, I don't see food costs. I don't see it listed there as a cost of goods, right? So I'm going to add it on the fly. So I'm going to say food cost. Food cost. When I tab over, it says, I don't see that in your chart of accounts. So I'm going to say, let's set it up. So there's 16 different types of accounts in your chart of accounts. And so here are some of them. And the rest of them are hid under that other account types. So there's 16 different types of accounts that are on your chart of accounts. And so we want to choose cost of goods sold. And it gives me some examples of cost of goods sold. Cost of materials, cost of labor, okay? So I'm going to hit continue. The type is the cost of goods sold account. The name of that account is called food cost. So I'm going to hit save and close. And so now I can hit save and close. But before I do that, I just want to tell you about this. So if I'm old school and I haven't bought computer checks, then I'm handwriting it. And so as long as this button is unchecked, if it's checked, it thinks that I'm going to hit save and close, and this check's going to go out in the print queue and wait until I put computer checks in and print on it. But if I uncheck this button right here, I can write any number, any word like online or draft or debit or ACH transfer. I can write any word I want to in that box. But let's say you hand wrote the check. So you said it's check number 398. Okay, and it's dated September the 1st to U.S. Foods for $500, and you're signing it to food costs. So I'm going to hit save and close. So that recorded it in my check register. So let's go look at my check register. Wells Fargo checking. Okay, right there is that $500 check that I wrote to U.S. Foods. Okay, this is my main check register right here. I'm looking at my main check register a lot. And so what I want to do is put that on my second bar. That second bar right here that's called an icon bar. This is a shortcut for you to get to something really quick. So I'm looking at my register a lot. So any screen you've got pulled up, if you go to view, it lets you add that, whatever screen it is, and this screen's called the Wells Fargo checking. If I go to view, it lets me add Wells Fargo checking to my icon bar, which is my shortcut bar. So I choose it. I've got to choose an icon to go with it, so I'm going to choose something that looks like a check, and I'm going to hit OK. So it went on that second bar, but that second bar is full. There's a lot of stuff there. So I'm going to go to view again, and I'm going to customize my icon bar. Okay? So it's at the far right of my screen, which means it's at the very bottom of my list. And so if I grab that little diamond, if I hover over it and grab it, it lets me pull it up. It goes really fast, so you kind of have to drop it, and you just kind of work it until you get it to where you want it to be. So I want it to be like right there. And so see, it's right here. So anytime I want to go to my main checking account, It's going to be right there on that second bar, and I can get to it real quick. Okay. Now, some of these things on this second bar, I don't necessarily go to a lot. I don't really need them. So I'm going to remove things like income tracker, bill tracker, maybe snapshots. These are things that I'm going to go to view. I'm going to go to customize icon bar. And then I am going to go up here and find those things I don't really use, like income tracker, and I'm going to delete it. I'm just deleting it off my shortcut bar. It's not deleting anything out of QuickBooks.
Right.
Bill tracker, I'm just going to delete it. Snapshots, I'm going to delete it. So you put things on that second bar that you need, that you go to a lot. Like I would probably put every bank account that I have, my PayPal bank, my Wells Fargo checking bank, my Wells Fargo savings bank. And so I would get them all listed up there because I'm looking at those things a lot. It's just like right here, if I click on customers, it's going to take me straight to my customer center where I can see all my customers. When I highlight Shelby Store, I can see the sales receipt that I did on September the 3rd and the sales receipt I did on September the 4th. If I go to Joe Smith, I can see the invoice that I did on 8/27 and that I got a payment on 9/16, okay? And if I go to Tom Jones, I can see I did a sales receipt on 9/16, okay? So let's go to the home page. So does anybody have any questions about selling money or you know, how that should be recorded? Invoices and sales receipts?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I wanted to tell you this, and this is like something I kind of tell people that maybe I don't want to do invoices. Maybe I don't want to do sales receipts. Okay, I mean, there is ways to do it without doing that. And that would be like skipping that part, skipping the invoice, skipping the sales receipt, just coming straight over here to record deposits. And not in the first box, but in the second box. Normally in the second box is where it's going from undeposited funds into my Wells Fargo checking, right? But right there on that second box, if I would say food sales, and let's say food sales were $1,000, and it's going to record it in my check register on 9/1, food sales $1,000. And I'm going to hit save and close. I want to show you on the P&L that it's going to show up there. So I go back and do my P&L, and I'm looking at my food sales. I can see it, but that's not the proper way to do it. The proper way is to do a sales receipt and let the item direct it to the food income. Now, that's the proper way to do it, but it will work. Like if you get a strange check, like let's say you got a check, like if you go to the home page and you click on record deposit, let's say you got an insurance refund. So you could come right here and choose your income expense account. It knows you're doing a deposit. And if you assign it to an insurance expense, let's say you got a health insurance refund. And let's say you got a health insurance refund of $300, okay? And so by you going straight to that account on the P&L, it knows you're doing a deposit, and even though you chose an expense account, it's going to go the other way. It's going to go negative $300 because you're paying the insurance people every month, $500, $500, $500, $500. But one time out of the year, they gave you a little bit of a refund. You understand? Because those 500s are going up, 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 500, 500, 500. Then all of a sudden you got a 300, so it just drops it back a little bit. So let me go ahead and save and close on that, and let me show you on the P&L what that looks like. So when I look at my P&L now, I can see on health insurance, normally that would be a positive number because I'm paying them $500 a month, $500, $500, $500. But on this example right here, we got a refund, so that's why it's negative 300. I hope that didn't like really blow your mind and confuse you too much. But so on these, all those different items we've been putting on the invoices and on the sales receipts, if I go to list up here, those items are listed there. These are the items we have set up in our QuickBooks so far. We set up a food sales, we set up a sales tax collected, and what this is doing is just directing it to somewhere on your chart of accounts. And so when I use the item called food sales, when I record it, it's directing it to food sales income on my chart of accounts. Does that make sense? So by using items, it's really, and you can get different things because you can run all kinds of reports. You can go to reports and you can say sales by item summary. And I know exactly how much food sales. Let me go dates of all. I know exactly how many bags of fertilizer I sold, how much food sales I did, how much lawn maintenance I did. I know exactly because I know it all the way down to the item name. All right, let's go to home. So does anybody have any questions about making money, income?
No.
Okay. Speak up. Now hold your peace. All right, and so now when you're buying stuff, so that's what we did is we sold U.S. Foods. We wrote a straight, I call that writing a straight check when you come here. But let's say that the U.S. Foods gives me time to pay them. So then maybe I want to enter a bill. So they deliver the food, they hand me the bill, and they say, well, you got 10 days to pay us, okay? So I probably want to go out here into my bills and enter in, I need to pay U.S. Foods. Since I've already entered them one time, they're there. I tab over. They delivered it on 9/1, and they said, you've got to pay it by 9/11. Okay, it's defaulting the 10 days later. If they said, well, you got until 9/24 to pay it, I would just change it to 9/24. But let's say they said you got to pay $700. Okay, and it's QuickBooks is intuitive. It knows the last time you paid U.S. Foods, you put it in this cost of goods sold account called food cost, and so that's why it popped that in there. So I'm going to hit saving. So my bill is all in there. I know who I got to pay. I know what date I got to pay it by, and I've assigned it to an expense account or a cost of goods sold account. Okay, so I'm going to hit save and close. Okay, so since I've entered the bill, it's now in my pay bills section. If I click on pay bills, I'm going to see that U.S. Foods bill sitting out there. Okay. And so I want to show you, before I actually pay that bill, I want to show you what's happened on the chart of accounts. So on the chart of accounts, let me roll it all the way to the top. Since I entered a bill, on my chart of accounts, I have an account called accounts payable. If I double click on that line, I can see the actual bill sitting there. U.S. Foods, $700. I can see that, yes, at one time there was an AT&T bill for $150, but last week we paid $100. So that's why right now my balance is sitting at $750, because I only owe $50 to AT&T and I owe $700 to U.S. Foods. Okay? So when I do a bill payment check for this $700, this balance will drop down to $50. So let me go here to my home page. And so I'm going to click on Pay Bills. Okay. All right. And so I'm going to choose, I want to pay U.S. Foods. Now I can come over here and say I'm just going to pay them $500 and it would leave $200 still to do. But I'm going to say I'm going to pay the whole thing off. So I'm going to pay the whole bill. So I'm not going to modify this number here. I'm not going to bring it down to $500. If I want to, I could bring it down to 500, and when I hit save and close, then I would still have a 200 that I owe to US Foods out there. But I'm gonna pay the whole thing, $700. So then I've chose it, and then I come to the bottom of the screen, and if I need to alter this bill in any way, if I choose it and then go to bill, it takes me right into that bill where I can make any change I needed to. If I'd accidentally put the wrong amount, I went in the wrong bill, but I want to get the US Foods, I go to bill, there's my US Foods bill. I can make any change I need to, okay? All right, so I am going to come, after I've chose it, then I'm going to come down here and say, well, I'm going to pay it. They said it's due by 9/24. Remember, I got it on 9/1, but they said, I'll give you the 9/24 to pay me. So I'm going to pay them right before it's due, 9/21. I'm going to give them time to get to them, 9/21, and I'm going to say, how are you going to pay them? Are you going to pay them with check, or are you going to put it on your credit card? I can do either one. Let's say I'm going to pay them with check, all right? Do you want it to go in the print queue so you can print it on computer checks? If so, you would choose to be printed. If you're handwriting it right now, you would choose assign check number. Then you choose, well, which bank account do you want to pay it out of? Do I want to pay it out of the checking account, the savings account, or the PayPal account? I'm going to say the checking account. I'm all ready now. I kind of just worked through that whole bottom area there to tell me how I want to pay this thing. So I'm going to hit pay selected bills. So here's my chance. I said I want to assign check number. So right here, I can, whatever number it was when I hand wrote it, let's say it was 398, I can key it in there. Let's say I went online and paid it. I can write the word online right there. Okay. Maybe I just go to my bank and I see they just drafted it out. I can write the word draft right there. I've got to get it into my check register because it's coming out of my bank. Whether they draft it or whether I wrote a check or whatever, it's coming out of my bank, and so I need it to be in my register so I can see it when I go to reconcile my bank statement that yes, it came out. So let's just say that it got drafted out. They just said I'll automatically just draft it out on 9/24, the due date probably. So let me change the date here, 9/24. So I'm going to hit OK. I can go pay more bills, or I can say done. Done. So now if I look at my register, I can go right there on that second bar and open it up. I'm going to see where I paid them $700 with a bill payment check. You can tell here it says bill payment. This one up here says check. That was where I call that a straight check. I wrote them a check and handed it to them. But this bill payment means that it went through the bill payment system, okay? So if it goes through the bill payment system, that means it ran through accounts payable. So if you look at your chart of accounts, Control A is the shortcut to get to your chart of accounts real quick. On the handouts, there's a whole list of shortcuts. Now, on the accounts payable account, right there it is. I drill down on it, and I can see, yes, I put in a $700 bill, but now I have made a $700 bill payment. And so that right now, in my accounts payable, $50 is all I owe. Okay? Does that make sense? Keaton, you're the only one I can see, so I need you to say, yeah, I understand that.
Yeah, it's good.
Everybody else is hiding, or either, I don't know. There's Beth. Hey, Beth.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to, you can't really see. Oh, there's Kristen. She's back. Okay.
I guess I hit mute and then I turn like no screen where you can't see me. Is that what it is?
I don't know, but I see you now. I see Beth, and really on my screen I can only see like 4 people. And I did
I'm
the
still here. I'm
drop
just
down.
looking.
and I can see Mary's there, and Steve, and Twanette, and Arnitra. So I can see a bunch of other
I'm
people.
just not showing my face.
Oh, don't hide. Don't hide. I
hiding 'cause I'm
want y'all
talking.
to interact. You know, that's why it's so much easier to teach in class, because I can get you to interact and ask questions and do that. Are you kind of grasping it?
Yes.
Yes.
I can see a few heads, and I didn't
Yes.
see go yes.
Yeah, I think I'm grasping it. It's just like if I have a scenario to do like a homework situation on it, I think I would feel more comfortable, you know.
Yeah.
But
You know, the college, they offer this class. It's called Ed to Go. I think it's like $75, and it's like Introduction to QuickBooks, and it's like I think it's like a 10-week thing, and every week there's they give you instructions, they give you homework. It takes about maybe an hour and a half a week to do it, 2 hours maybe, but it just starts at the very beginning, and it tells you to do this, and you kind of get some hands-on experience. But I've done those classes, and I thought they were really good. It's called ED #2 and Go. And it's through the college, Cleveland Community College. And there's several QuickBooks classes.
I'm taking one right now. It's excellent.
Chris, have you done it?
Yeah, I'm taking the intro to financial accounting right now. And
now
then
you're probably doing a real class, aren't you?
Mm-hmm. Well, no, it's that Ed to Go, that ED to Go.
It is that?
Mm-hmm. And it's,
Okay.
I mean, I took financial accounting once in college. I mean, I can't remember. I probably barely passed it, you know. But these classes are excellent. I've taken a lot of those classes. I'm one of those continuing education people, and it's actually really good. The teacher's nice, and
there's
and
about 3 or 4 QuickBooks classes.
Mm-hmm. So they have a desktop like 16, 17, and 19, and then they have QuickBooks desktop with or something like a accounting with Excel. I saw the other day, which Excel is so weird now. I don't.
Yeah, you don't necessarily. If you're using QuickBooks, you don't. I mean, sometimes you do use Excel a little bit, but it's not a big deal in Excel. But as far as the years, QuickBooks doesn't change much. Like 20 and 21, there won't be much change. There'll be just little bitty features that change about things. So you don't have to really worry about, well, they don't offer the 2020. The 2019 will be pretty much like the 2020.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let me go back. So like you see, just going back to the home page to get your focus, get your chart of account. I mean, get your flow chart there. That really helps you to know what I need to do next. And then too, I think just basically looking at your registers, looking at your check registers, and so you can kind of understand. Because I mean, we are going to reconcile our main checking account, but you have to reconcile all your checking accounts, your PayPal, your checking account, your savings account. You got to reconcile each one of them. And I even reconcile daily. I'll go and look at the bank and see what the bank balance is today, and I'll do the reconcile in QuickBooks where you do a bunch of checking things off. These deposits came in and these checks went out, and you get it to 0. That means you're reconciled. When it's down at the bottom, it'll say balance is 0. You're reconciled, and you leave. And so I leave all month long. I don't hit reconcile now until I actually hit the end of the month, and I've got my end of the month bank statement. So you can constantly stay reconciled right up to the moment. Okay?
I have a question.
Yes.
I have a quick question for you.
All right.
The handouts that we got on last week, do those cover this week as well? Because I haven't had a chance to look at them fully.
Yes, the handouts that were sent out last week's are basically, this class is just an extension on that class. It just kind of goes a little bit deeper,
Okay.
Does anybody else have any questions or anything that they were hoping that maybe that it would get addressed? So I guess a lot of people in this class, it was truly, I know, Keaton, you said you've been using it for quite a while. Is your QuickBooks, do you feel like it's in good shape?
Yes, it is.
Good, good. So a lot of people are probably maybe you haven't even bought it yet. You know, you're just looking at it. And so last week we talked about, you know, where's the best place to go get it, and do I want to get desktop or do I want to get QuickBooks Online? I'm a big fan of desktop because in the long run, it'll save you a lot of money. You don't have to pay that monthly subscription. And they're like the phone company or the TV company. They'll give it to you cheap for 3 months. Then they'll put it full price. So I'm a big fan of the desktop version. Okay, so let's go to the home page. Let's say, so we got about another hour to go. So I guess let's go ahead and reconcile. So I'm gonna go here and look at my Wells Fargo checking account. I'm gonna have to cheat a little bit. So when I look in the month of September, wait a minute, let me roll it all the way to the top. Okay, we started out in August. I'm just gonna skip August. I'm just gonna say we reconciled as of September the 30th of 20. And I can see on my reconcile that my balance is 1607 on my register. So I'm kind of cheating. I'm looking at my QuickBooks to get my ending number when I really should be looking at my bank statement to get my ending number. But 1607. So I'm going to go here. And remember on the banking menu up top, it shows you everything you can do with the customer, everything you can do with the vendor, everything you can do with banking. And one of the things in banking that I can do is hit reconcile. So that's there. But if I'm on the home screen and I want to reconcile, I just come in the banking section and click on reconcile. There's usually a couple different ways to do the very same thing in QuickBooks. I do more work with the menu bar up top than I do on the home page as far as that. But if I click reconcile there, it pops up all my different bank accounts. And so right now I'm wanting to reconcile my checking account, okay? And so we said as of September the 30th, okay? And I forgot what the number was, so I'm gonna go.
1607, wasn't it?
Even?
I think I'm not positive.
All right, I'm gonna plug it in wrong. I'm gonna put 1607. Okay, I'm gonna keep these accounts down here at the bottom. I'm gonna keep them up to date too, because the next time when I go into reconcile after I do it this first time, they're all gonna change to October 31st. And those things down at the bottom where it says service charge, that would be if your bank charges you a service charge. Interest earned if your bank paid you an interest or two of money, interest. And so if my bank really did do that, if I've got a service charge and I need to record it in account, when it says account right here, what's it talking about?
It's asking about your account that you have assigned.
My chart of accounts. In my chart of accounts, what account do you want to track service charges? And so I would do my drop down. And so what account would I want to use?
Bank service charges.
That's correct. Bank service charges. All right. On this interest earned, let's do my drop down. Interest earned. What would I want to use?
I'm guessing interest income.
That is correct. It's income, but it's not like business income, but it is income, and that's why it's called other income. QuickBooks is real intuitive. It knows what you're doing, so it kind of directs you and puts it right in front of your eyes, so you hopefully choose the right thing. So I'm going to choose interest income, okay? But let's say my bank doesn't do either one of those, so I don't really need to plug any numbers in. So we're going to go with the number that she said, 1607. So I'm going to hit continue.
I think it was 1670.
Was it 1670? All
I
right,
don't,
now that I've hit enter, I can probably jump right back over here to my register and look.
it'll let you fix it.
Huh?
I said it'll let you fix, it'll know if it's wrong.
Yeah, it'll let you fix it. So on 928, we're at 1607.
Mm.
All right, so I'm going to go right back into my reconcile. 1607. All right, we had it right on.
Mhm.
All right. So now on my reconcile screen, it shows the money coming in on the right-hand side and the money going out on the left-hand side. And so when I see that deposit in August, yep, in September I had that deposit, I had that deposit, that deposit, that deposit, that deposit, and that deposit. So my total deposits were 2907, and so that will probably be listed on your bank statement. Deposits 2907. All right, now I'm off $1,300 because my goal is to get that to be zero. So I'm off $1,300. So I look on my bank statement. Yep, that check came through. Yep, that draft came through, and I'm off $100. And yep, that AT&T cleared. So I'm completely reconciled now, right? I'm at zero. All right. Let's say I'm reconciling every single day, and that's what I was talking about, is I'm not going to hit reconcile now, right now. Let's say I'm just going to hit leave. It remembers what I was doing, where I'm at, which ones I've checked and which ones I haven't. And I can also see it in my register. These asterisks mean that you're in the process of reconciling, okay? So it comes to the next day, I go banking, reconcile, and I can, if you know the balance changes from 1607 to 2200, I just plug in my new ending balance, and when I hit continue, it's probably going to show that it's off down in the bottom right corner. It's going to have a difference, and I do check, 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 and leave again. Does that make sense? So that way you can kind of stay on top of your reconciliations. All right, so really we finished up the month of September, so I'm going to go ahead and hit reconcile now. So it says, congratulations, your account is balanced. All marked items have been cleared in the account register. Select the type of reconciliation report you would like to see. I'm going to see both. I want a summary report and a detail report. So I say both, and I can print them, and usually I take what gets generated out of QuickBooks and what I print off from my bank statement, and I staple them together. That proves that QuickBooks matches my bank statement. I've got them right together. So I'm going to hit display so we can look at them. All right. So this is showing my summary report, and it's showing you went from 0 to 1607. And it's showing you had checks of $1,300 and you had deposits of $2,907. It also tells me on this report things it sees in QuickBooks that I haven't gotten to yet. It's called new transactions. There's a $300 check and there's a $1,000 deposit. So I don't really have to pay any attention to that at the bottom. I'm more concerned. I went from 0 to 1607. That's what I'm concerned with. That looks good. So I'm going to close that one. Now here's my detailed report. So it shows you start out at 0 and it sees all the checks. So there's $1,300 worth of checks. And then here's all your deposits, 2907 of deposits. And so you ended at 1607. And it also is telling me things it sees in QuickBooks that we haven't gotten to yet. Does that make sense? All right.
Yeah.
So we'll close that. So now all of my asterisks turn to check marks. And so I can just by looking at my register, I can see, yep, I've already reconciled all the way through September. I'm ready to go on into October. Okay. So let me cheat again. So on October, not a lot of activity in October, 2307. Okay. So I'm going to go to banking. I'm going to hit reconcile. So it knows what my ending number was, and now I'm going to put in my new ending number. It rolled all my dates forward 1 month, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going from 1607. See, I can't change that number. It's locked in. And if ever that number would change, if I would start my reconciliation up and it didn't match last month's, that means that you deleted something that you shouldn't have. You deleted something that was previously reconciled.
Mm-hmm.
And the way you fix that is you just figure out what you did and go and put it back. And then you can fix it. Okay. So I'm going to 2307. So I hit continue. I want to throw this off just a little bit. So let me say it's 20. I want to throw it off $20. So I'm going to say it's 2307 minus $20 would be
87.
87.
Mhm.
2280. It's been a long day. 2287. I'm going to throw it off just a little bit. That was my ending balance on my bank statement I've got in front of my hands. Okay, I hit continue. Okay. All right, I'm looking at my bank statement. Yes, there was a $1,000 deposit. See, I'm off 680 right here. That says how much I'm off right this moment. When I choose this 1,000, it's going to show you're off 320. When I choose that 300, it's going to say you're off 20. And I'm looking at my bank statement. Oh, I forgot to enter that I went to Papa John's and got a pizza. I forgot to put it in. So right here on the fly, I can do it if I know the shortcut, which is Control W to write a check. So Control W. In fact, I could leave and then go to the home page and then write a check and then start the reconciliation back up. But if I know shortcuts, I can do Control W and it lets me just pop up a check. And let's say I went to Papa John's. Got to put this in. I'm going to do a quick add. They're going to be a vendor. Anybody you pay is a vendor. And I paid $20. Okay. And let's say I paid them with a debit card. So I'm going to write debit. Okay. And so this happened in the month of October, so I'm going to change my dates to October. You see how you can set your dates, so you could go all the way back to January the 1st and start your QuickBooks. Everything's date driven, so it's according to whatever dates you put in there. So October the 27th, I spent $20. What's the last thing I got to do to tell it about this $20 I'm going to record?
The account.
What account I want to put this in. This $20 that got spent out of the Wells Fargo checking, what account, and now if I do my drop down, I can see my chart of accounts. And so what account would I want to use?
Meals?
Yep,
Meals?
meals. It's a meals expense. That's correct. Meals. $20 I spent. So I'm going to hit save and close, and that's going to record it in my register, which this reconciliation is showing me everything it sees in my register, and there's the $20 I need to finish it up to make it be zero. Does that make sense?
So,
Yeah.
so what is the shortcut if I forgot a deposit?
If you forgot a deposit,
Mhm.
there's not one like
Okay,
Control
all right.
W. You would
Okay.
have to leave and you would
Mhm.
have to go and record that deposit and then
Okay.
start the record. Now really in QuickBooks, I mean with this thing going on over on the left hand side, if I
Mhm.
need to go record a deposit, I really don't even have to leave this page. I could
Yeah.
say, take me to the home page,
Mhm.
and then I record my deposit, and then I say, take me back into my reconciliation.
Yeah.
And I'm right back in there.
Okay.
Okay. I don't necessarily have to hit leave. All right. So as you can see on my Wells Fargo checking, those 3 asterisks, that means you're in the process of reconciling October. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go back over to my reconcile, and I'm going to go ahead and hit reconcile now. Okay, I'm going to look at both of my reports. I'm going to display my summary report. So I'm going from 1607 to 2287. It doesn't see anything else in QuickBooks, so that's why there's nothing at the bottom, but it can see the deposits and the checks. That looks good. And then I see my detailed report, and I can actually see my deposits and my checks. So I'm going to print those two reports, and you can see I'm completely reconciled up to the moment. Okay? So let's get into credit cards, because most businesses, they do run credit cards, and we're talking about real credit cards. Your debit card is with your bank account. So if you had used your debit card, if you had went to Ingles, and you used your debit card, somebody tell me, how would I record the purchase that I made at Ingles using my debit card? What would I do here on the home page?
You're still writing a check.
I would write a check. Yes, I would write a check. Okay. I use my debit card, so I'm going to write here, I'm going to write debit. If it looks like this, to print, I've got to uncheck that button so I can write any word I want to. Debit. Let's say this was on into November the 13th. I went to Ingles. Tab over, it's going to say, I don't see Ingles in your vendor list. I'm going to do a quick add, vendor, okay? I had to spend $50 at Ingles, okay? Now, if I'm a restaurant, if I'm going to buy Ingles to buy stuff to feed my staff here at work, I would put it in meals. But if I had to run real quick to the grocery store to get something in my restaurant, what account would I use right here?
Cost of goods.
Huh?
Cost
Yep,
of goods.
that's correct. If she bought Ingles food so that she could resell it, she would call it food cost. Okay? So we're going to hit save and close. Okay. So now, let's see, I forgot where I was going with that. So that was in Ingles, we did a debit card. Okay. Now that's using a debit card. But let's go to the home page and let's say we're using a real credit card. So when I turn on in QuickBooks that I use credit cards, there's going to be a new icon that's going to appear right here in the bottom right corner of the banking section. Because right now, if I go to my chart of accounts, everything's listed in your chart of accounts. And I'm getting ready to put another type right here called credit card. There's 16 different types of accounts in your chart of accounts. So I'm on the main page. I'm going to come to the bottom left corner and say I want to set up a new account. And it's teaching me shortcuts. Control N for new. So if I'm on the main page and I hit Control N, it knows I'm wanting to set up a new account on my chart of accounts, which can be, there's 16 different types of accounts. And so right now I'm wanting to set up a credit card. Credit card. All right, I'm going to hit continue. And we'll say that my credit card name, the type is credit card. The name of it is Capital One. And I might put the last 4 digits. It's Capital One 2768. Okay. So that's all I got to do right there. Capital One 2768. So I hit save and close. I don't want to set up any kind of online services because that'll just get you confused. Don't try to hook it to your bank and feed it in. You'll just end up with a mess. So now on my chart of accounts, you can see I have another type of account called credit card. And you can see it's a register. And in that register right now, it's sitting at 0. If I open it up, there's nothing there. Okay? So it's like a brand new credit card. I just got it. So now if I go to my home screen, I've got a new icon down here where I can enter credit card charges. So I click on it, enter credit card charges. It knows that's the only Capital One it sees in my QuickBooks, so that's why it popped it up there. But if you had multiple credit cards, you could direct it to whichever credit card you charged it on. So let's say Capital One. Let's say I went to Ingalls again, and I had to use my real credit card this time. So I'm going to say, well, I had to spend $80. My food cost is already there, everything. So I'm just going to hit save and close. Okay. So let's look on my chart of accounts again. You'll see that register is up to $80. So every time I make a charge, that register is going to go up, 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 up. But then when I make my credit card payment, that register is going to come down. So when you get your credit card statement, it comes in the mail. Let's say something else. Let's put some more charges on the credit card. So let's say I go to pay bills. Okay. So my AT&T bill was due on September the 30th. I'm already late because here we're already in November. Okay. So I know I still owed them $50. So I'm going to choose it. $50, that's how much I still owe them. And then I come down here, I know I'm late, but I'm going to pay it on 11/16. And how am I going to pay it? I'm still broke, so I'm going to go ahead and pay it with my credit card. Okay? If I had multiple credit cards, they would all be listed there. So now I'm all set to go. I've got the date, I've told it credit card, I've told it which credit card, and I'm going to hit pay selected bills. Okay, I'm going to say done. So now in my pay bills section, I'm completely empty. I've paid all the bills that we had put out there. And so even if I look on my chart of accounts, I can see in my accounts payable section, I'm down to 0. And if I double click on it, I can see, yes, there was that 700, there was that 150. I paid the 700, I paid the 100, and now I'm paying the 50. And that's why my balance is down to 0. Okay. So that credit card register went up 50.
Mhm.
Now I owe for the $80 and the $50. Make sense?
Mhm.
It's just all common sense. Do we love bookkeeping, Kristen? It's all just common sense. It's just really just dun 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 dun. Some people don't like that dun 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 stuff, but I love it. All right, so I am going to go home page, and let's say, well, it's time for me to pay that credit card bill, and they say the minimum payment you can make is $30. So I'm going to come right here and write a check because I'm ready to pay it right away. I'm going to write a check. I'm going to write the check to Capital One. It says, I don't see Capital One in your vendor list, so I'm going to do quick add. It's a vendor. I hit OK. All right. Let's say they said, well, you got to pay $30 at least. Okay. I want to get my dates right. So 11/16. And how am I going to pay them? Let's say I'm going to pay them by, let's say I paid them online. So I just went on their website and paid them. So I'm just going to write the word online right there. Okay. So the last thing I've got to do is come down into the account area. And does anybody know what I would put right here where it says account? Nobody?
Mm-mm.
What I want to do, see, I've already told it.
It'd be utilities expense.
Nope, because you've already told it when you entered the credit card charge, you told it food cost. When you entered the credit card charge, you told it whatever the other one was. I can't even remember.
Okay.
But you've already told it what account.
Okay.
Now you want to point it straight to the
To the
credit card.
Yeah.
You want to point it straight to the credit card. So not an expense account because you already told it that. you want to point it straight to the credit card, okay? And so when I hit save and close, that's going to lower that credit card balance by $30. So when I hit save and close, you can see on my chart of accounts that now my credit card balance dropped down to $100 is all you owe them. You did owe them $130, but now since you've made the $30 payment, you only owe them $100. Does that make sense? Okay. And you'll see in my main checking account, you'll see in that register, yes, that $30 payment to Capital One is listed there in your bank account. So it's hitting like two registers. It's hitting your bank account register and it's hitting your credit card register. Okay. All right. So let's go back to the home page. So that's kind of how credit cards work. And so you reconcile your credit cards just like you reconcile everything else. When they send that statement and they say your minimum payment is $30, they're probably gonna put a finance charge on there. So let's go ahead and reconcile that credit card. So just like I put my checking accounts on that second bar, I put my credit cards on that second bar also. Does anybody know how I would possibly put my credit card register on that second bar? I'll give you a hint. First thing I got to do is I got to see that register.
You got to go to it's view, add. You go the drop down and goes to add whatever to the icon bar.
But first I got to see it. I got to see the credit card register first.
So you got to go to banking? Is it banking? Would you
No,
pull down the banking?
there's nothing in banking that will let me see that credit card.
Well, then it's reconcile.
Nope. Chart of accounts.
Chart of accounts.
Everything's in chart of accounts.
Okay, so go to chart of accounts.
If I go to the chart of accounts, I can see everything.
Yeah.
And there's my credit card. And so if I want to see that credit card register, I just open it up, double click on it. There's my register. Now, Kristen, this is where you were talking about.
Okay.
Once I'm seeing it, then I'm seeing it up top.
You go to view.
Capital One, that's when you go to view.
Yeah.
Whatever screen I've got pulled up,
Add.
it lets me add that screen to my icon bar.
Oh.
Whatever screen's pulled up. So I'm gonna say, let's add that to my icon bar. A while ago, I was choosing this check. This looks like a check. For credit cards, I usually use this top one. That's the icon I use. So I hit OK. So it went on that bar, but I can't see it because it's way over to the right.
Yeah.
So I need to move it to where I can see it. So how do I do that now?
So customize, go back to view and customize icon bar.
That is correct. Customize my icon bar. It's at the far right, which means it's at the bottom of the list. And I grab that little diamond and I just pull it up. It goes really fast, so you kind of have to drop it. So I'm just trying to work it to where I want it to sit. So I grab the diamond again and I'll put it right there on the other side of bank fees, Capital One. And I'm gonna hit OK. So now anytime I want to go to my Wells Fargo checking register, I'm right in it. Anytime I want to go to my Capital One credit card register, I'm right in it. Okay? So that's what that second bar is for you. That's to help you maneuver. This bar over here on the left-hand side, this is called the open windows. Oh man, that saves a lot of time.
I don't have that on my 2020.
You go to view up top, view, and you turn your open window list on.
View open window list. Oh, sweet. Okay, thank you.
All right. And so that's part of too, when you shut down QuickBooks at the end of the day, when you're through working, all these windows are
hidden,
running all the time in the background. So when you're through working, you want to shut down all these windows, and the way you do it is you always go to Window on the menu bar, you go to window, and those same screens that are listed on the left-hand side are listed right here. And if I go close all, it shuts down all of those windows. And it might say, do you want to memorize this report? And you say no, like this one right here. You have modified the settings for this report. Would you like to memorize it? And I'm going to say, no, don't need to. No, don't need to. But it's shutting down all those windows. And after you've done that, after you've done windows and you've hit close all and shut down the windows, then you move over to file, and then you can exit. And that'll shut QuickBooks down. Now, a lot of people in QuickBooks Desktop, you can have as many companies as you want. So a lot of people will just go file and they'll go to close company, which takes you to a screen called the no company open screen, and you can jump right into another company. Okay. So I'm going to go back into my Joe's Lawn Care. I'm going to hit open it back up. Are we learning anything?
Yes.
You
Yeah.
said, Keaton, did you say that?
Yeah, I don't do credit cards, so I'm learning that. So when does the finance charges go in there?
Okay, so let's reconcile our credit card. Okay. So first thing I want to do is I want to go to the credit card. I'm looking at it. Let me make it big. I'm looking at the credit card, and this is not a good example because everything's dated November the 16th. But let's say this bill payment was not really November the 16th. Let's say it was December the 5th. Okay, save and close. Okay, so we've got our November bank statement in front of us, and it said you've got to make a minimum payment of $30, which we did. So now I'm ready to reconcile this credit card. So if I go to banking, it knows I've got credit cards open, so it says reconcile credit card. I'm gonna say yeah, and so I'm gonna, let's see, how should I cheat? Let's see. I guess I'll say 50. I don't know. 100. I don't know what I put in there. Reconcile credit card. All right. So let's say it's November the 30th of 20. Okay. And I think, let me plug in $100. I'm not sure what it's really after. And this is November the 30th of 20. You noticed in QuickBooks, if it's the current year, you don't even have to put 20. You can just do 11/30, and when you tab, it'll do everything else for you.
Oh, I see the finance charge.
Yep, there's your finance charge. And so let's say they're going to charge you a $12 finance charge. Okay. Now, if I do use it right here, it wants to know what account do you want to track that finance charge in. So if I do my drop down, I've got to find an account for this. So let's see if I see anything. I really don't see anything that I really like, and so I'm going to create one right on the fly. I'm going to call it finance charges, credit card finance charges. So credit card finance charges. Tab over. It says, I don't see that in your chart of accounts. So I say, let's set it up. It wants to know what type of account are you wanting to set up. We're going to use an expense account. Is it going to cost me $12? It is an expense. And that's basically all I got to do. I don't have to put a description or anything. So I'm going to hit save and close. Okay. And so I'm going to hit continue. I know my ending balance is not going to be right. All right. So I know that there was that $30 payment I made. And I know there was that $80 charge I made. And I know there's a $12 finance charge. So my ending balance, I think, should be 62. Let me make it be 62 and see if it comes out right. 62, hit continue. Yeah, that did. So that basically zeroed out. So of course you're going by your credit card statement, what they said the ending balance is. All right, so again, I can leave at any time if I need to go research stuff. Again, it's putting asterisks, means you're in the process of reconciling your credit card. At any time, I can go back and say, well, I'm ready to resume it, reconcile credit card. There's my ending number. Everything stayed the same. All my checks stayed on there. Everything looks good. I'm at 0, so I'm ready to hit reconcile now. All right, it says, well, you can write a check. I already paid them the $30 minimum they told me, so I'm just going to skip this part. So I'm not going to write a check. They're saying you can pay $62 and pay it off, but I'm not ready to do that. So I just hit cancel, and it lets me get on by, okay? And so again, I've got my summary report, which shows, you know, you went from 0 to 62, and this is what happened, and this is what it sees in QuickBooks is going to happen. That looks fine. And then well, the detailed report, I think I clicked on the wrong thing. Anyway, I lost that one. But if you lost it, you can always go back to reports, banking, previous reconciliations. You can point it to your credit card, and those reports are right there. I can print them again. All right, let me go to the home page. All right, so we've talked about credit cards, and we've talked about reconciling. We've talked about paying bills. Does anybody think of anything that maybe you'd like to hit on?
The chart of accounts.
The chart of accounts. Okay, there's our chart of accounts, and that's where everything's in your chart of accounts. And that's where you have all your different types of accounts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And remember, everything from equity sits on the one financial report called anybody know? There's 2 financial reports.
The P&L.
The P&L, and the other one's called the balance sheet.
Yes.
So if I go to reports and I come down to company and financial, I'll see my P&L and I'll see my balance sheet.
Mm-hmm.
Those are my 2 reports. There's a lot of different types of P&L reports, but here's my balance sheet. My balance sheet shows you everything from equity up, where they sit at this moment in time. As you can see right now, the Wells Fargo checking, it's 2207 is the balance, and then the savings, there's a $75 balance, and the accounts receivable, there's a $30 balance. So if I run a balance sheet right this moment, dated, I'm going to have to go all the way to like November the 30th for it to match, okay? So exactly how much money you've got in your bank accounts, 2207 and 75. Accounts receivable, that means I've got an invoice out there and I'm waiting for him to pay me. That's considered an asset. So your total assets are 2312. And in accounting, your assets equal your liability and equity. And so that's when you get into liability and equity, and you come down here at the bottom, and yes, 2312 there and 2312 here. So that's like something that always stays in sync if you're doing everything right. I'm seeing 23, your assets equal your liability and equity. And when you start talking about liabilities and equity, what you're talking about is in accounts payable, I still owe somebody $50. Thought we paid that. Was that not that $50 that we paid the? Oh, I dated that check in the December. Remember I did that on the credit card? But that's why it's showing right here, you owe $50 as of November the 30th. But I did pay that on into December. Your Capital One, you owe them $62 at this moment in time. Your sales tax collected is at $77 because we did 2 sales receipts. One day On the 3rd, we collected so much sales tax, and then on the 4th, we collected more sales tax. And then net income, that owner's draw contribution, that's when we put our personal money in to start our whole business. We put $1,100 to start our business. And the last number, the net income, that is your bottom number on a P&L. If I would run a P&L ending on November the 30th, it would show 1023. Let me just do that to make sure. A P&L, and I want to run it to November the 30th, all the way from the beginning of the year. So I'm going to do 01/01/20 and hit refresh. 1023, that's my bottom figure on my P&L report. So basically my P&L is showing me this is how much income you took in, $25.35. This is the food cost you had, $13.30. So if you take $25.35 minus $13.30, you're left with $12.05. Then I got to take out all my expenses. So I had $12 in expense. I got $300 in refund, 20 expense, 150 expense, 300 expense. So that's why my ending, I went from $12.95, take away 1,023, and that left, take away 182, and then that left you 1,023 profit. And I like to look at my P&L report by month, so I can see exactly every month how I did in January, and February, and March, and April. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Good deal. Now, was there something else about the chart of accounts that you really wanted to talk about?
No, it's pretty much explanatory. The part that we do a little different with the church is we have different categories that we assign them.
Now, are you talking about categories that would be on the P&L, or are you talking about categories on the balance sheet?
They're going to end up on the P&L.
The P&L.
But they're set up in the chart of accounts.
Yep. However you set up your chart of accounts is how it's going to show up on the P&L.
Mm-hmm.
When you design your chart of accounts and put these names, and that is exactly how it's going to show up on the P&L report.
So tell me when you would use subcategories.
So a good example of subcategories, I think the other day we did it for utilities. Instead of dropping everything right into utilities, I set up sub-accounts like electric and gas and water. You know, you don't want to get crazy. You don't want to get too crazy, which I imagine a church gets crazy.
Yeah, it does.
And if you looked at the P&L for a church, so you kind of have to design it the way that the deacons or the finance committee likes to look at it. That's the way you got to design your chart of accounts. And so on your like utilities, those are considered sub-accounts of utilities.
Okay.
But you can go 5 layers down. Like under electric, maybe I have parsonage, and maybe I have church. Like I said, you don't want to get crazy, but you could if you want to. You can go 5 layers down. You can make electric is a sub-account of utilities, but parsonage is a sub-account of electric. You follow me? So you can go as complex as you want.
My problems that I'm having, because I train, they sometimes get confused when posting, where they'll put it in the expense instead of the income. So tell me how I can make it easier.
Well, so your income is basically, the only time you have income is pretty much doing sales receipts. So if you collected the money on Sunday morning, when you go to enter it into QuickBooks, you would do a sales receipt for every single person. So like if you collected the money, you would go out here and do a sales receipt, and I'd probably date it that Sunday date, and I would say it's for Sam Jones. Okay. Quick add, Sam Jones. Let me find the Sunday date. We'll say November the 29th. Okay. And I'm going to use an item. You can have as many items as you want, but I'm just going to say it's his normal tithe. So I'm going to create an item called tithe. Okay. I tab over, it says I don't see tithe. And so I'm going to say, well, let's set it up. So I want to set that up as a service. That's kind of the default one you would use. The wording I'm going to put on there is tithe. Okay. It's definitely not taxable. So I'm going to say non-taxable. Everybody gives different amounts, so it's going to pop in 0. But the money that I might want to put it under, I'm looking for what type of account would I want to use? What type?
It's an income account.
Definitely an income account. And I look at my income accounts, and none of those sound good, right? So I'm going to say tithe income. Tab over. It says, I don't see that in your chart of accounts. I say, set it up. Okay. What type is it? It's income. The name of it's tithe income. That's all I need. I'm going to hit save and close. And so let's say that now my item is all set up, and let's say he gave $100. Okay. So when I hit save and close, I entered a sales receipt. It went to sit in undeposited funds. It's sitting there, you know, whether he paid me with check or cash or whatever, I got it, right? So then when I hit record deposits, everybody's tithe is going to be listed down there, whether they paid. One thing I didn't do on his, and let me go back and do that, is that when I did that sales receipt for him, if I click on create sales receipt, it takes me to a blank one. But if I go back one screen, I can get right back to his. When you do a sales receipt, you got paid instantly. So you not only tell what you did, but how you got paid. And so let's say he gave cash, or he might have gave check. Let's say if he gave check and it was check number 3467. All right, so now when I hit save and close, in my record deposits, I'm going to see his check sitting out there. Sam Jones gave a check for $100. Okay, so everybody's tithe would be listed there, and so then you would put check, 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 check. Choose maybe 20, 30, 40 of them, and when you hit OK, they're going to go to the deposit screen, and you deposit them into the bank. Now, if I do that, if I do it like that, then I can go to my customers and I can click on Sam Jones and I can see every time he gave money. And I can open these sales receipts and know exactly what he did. Let's say he gave money to the youth fund. Okay, so I'm going to create an item called youth. I tab over, says I don't see it. So I would say, well, let's create it. We'll create it as service youth fund. Okay, it's definitely non-taxable. So on this, I do this a little bit differently on a church, because if they're given to the youth fund, that means it's for the youth to use, right?
That's right.
It's not for the church to pay the power bill.
That's right.
So what I do with all the designated money is that I put it in an other income account. I create an other income account called Youth Fund Income, and I also create an account, an other expense called Youth Fund Expense. And
So
then
are you setting these up as bank accounts or just accounts?
just
Income
accounts.
Okay.
Just accounts. I'm setting up them as other income and other expense.
Okay.
And so then I can track how much youth fund is spent. You know, if I got 100 and I spent 50, then I can say, well, we should have a balance of $50 left. Does that make sense?
Uh-huh.
Have you ever used classes in QuickBooks? Classes?
Yeah, but that would confuse them more, so I don't do the classes with them.
Well, you almost have to do classes if you want to keep track of like that.
Now, if you're using the other income and then you're labeling each ministry, as we call it, it's still going to post to those under other income.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So on the youth fund, if I'm doing a sales receipt, that means I'm making money. So this is directing it to an other income account called youth fund income.
Okay, yeah.
I tab over. I will say I want to set it up. I want to not income type because income runs the church. I want to use other income.
Okay.
So I'm going to choose other income. Okay. I'm going to hit save and close. I'm going to hit OK. So let's say he gave $100 to the youth fund. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to hit save and close. So now he just gave $200 this past Sunday. So if I hit make deposits, record deposits, I'm going to see, again, that sometimes it doesn't show you, but if I click on payments, it will refresh. There's his $200 he gave. You're going to put the money, you don't keep your designated money in a separate bank account, do you?
No, well, we have the savings and the checking, but everything is under one checking account. Yeah.
Okay, so you're putting it all in your operating account, even though it might be designated youth money,
That's
right?
right.
Okay,
That's right.
so there, it's there, so you can put it in there. So let's say they went to Carowinds. Okay, so let's say, well, we got to write a check to Carowinds. So I'm going to come over here, and out of my checking account, I'm going to write Carowinds. I'm going to do a quick add. I'm going to set Carowinds up as a vendor. And let's say I had to pay them $50, and I wrote them a check, and I'm going to choose the other expense account.
Okay.
Youth fund expense. And I tab over. I'm going to say set it up. So not an expense, because that's running the church. You're going to choose other expense.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep, it does.
So I'm going to hit continue. All right, there it is. It's all set up. I'm going to hit save and close. Save and close. All right, so now let me look at a P&L report.
Okay.
P&L report. Okay, I'm going to come down here to my other income. So we can see, yes, there was $100 that went in the youth fund and $50 was expensed. So you have $50 left in that whole area.
Okay, one other question.
Yep.
So if I want to pull that youth report to give to that youth team leader, does it have the minuses and the pluses?
Yes, it would.
Okay.
But I really, to make this work, what you've got to do on all these designated funds is you've got to use classes. So if I open that income back up, if somebody, when Sam gives that designated money,
Oh gosh.
what?
Well, I could probably set up, they would know the difference, but they would have to hit the right class though.
Yes, they would.
See, that's a lot. If they can't get the
Let me go cut classes on.
go ahead.
Preferences. I'm gonna go to accounting.
Okay.
I'm gonna turn my classes on. Classes are really handy, but you have to figure out like how you want to use them. So since I turned classes on, now I can add a class, and so I'm going to create a class called youth.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to do a quick add. I got that set up. So not on the tithe. I'm not going to put a class on the tithe, just on the designated funds. Maybe I'll have a class called the WMU. Maybe I'll have a class called the building fund. Maybe I'll have a class called youth. These are designated funds. Okay. So I'm gonna hit save and close. Okay. So I need to do the same thing when I wrote that check to Carowinds. I need to go to that check at Carowinds and put that same class on there. So let me find that check. So here's the check that I wrote to Carowinds. Okay, I'm gonna open it up. And since I've turned classes on, it's over there. I do my drop down, I can see youth. So I'm gonna hit save and close. So now I can go to reports, and under company and financial, remember we basically looking at profit and loss standard, but I'm gonna come and look at a profit and loss by class.
Okay.
And so when I do that, when I see class, I gotta get my dates all set. So I'm gonna have to do all dates. So everything that I didn't put a class on is falling under unclassified. The things I put classes on, which are basically going to be down here at the bottom, I can see the youth got $100, the youth spent $50, they've got $50 right now.
Okay.
And the reason you got to use classes is because you got to monitor this, and you always got to put the dates of all, because just because 2020 ends, that don't mean the youth money's gone.
You're right.
It's got to carry on to 2021. So you always got to keep your dates at all. So
Okay.
you might see the youth where they stand. And even I can doctor this report up right here and say, don't show me any of the top stuff, because that's for running the church. Okay? If I go to customize report and I say filter the report, and under account right here, I'm just going to say all other income expense.
Okay.
And I hit OK, and there it is. I'm just seeing the designated funds only.
Okay.
And that would be an example of where, yes, I maybe do want to memorize this report so I don't have to go customize it and filter it again.
Okay, that might be easier. Okay.
Okay. Well, we lost some people when we ran on that rant there, but I'm here all night. If y'all want to ask me a question, I'll be glad to. I'm not sure. Go ahead.
I have a question. I
Okay.
have a question concerning my restaurant, because one of the things I want to do is have like a charitable part where you can donate some money to like feed the children or something. Of course, that'll be separate from the business income, but would I need to do a class to report that, or just put it on the regular report?
Well, I think what I would do is, so you're wanting to like where people can just contribute, and then whenever it's needed.
I want to have it sort of set up to where we run specials sometimes, where you can maybe buy something and, like for a discount, or some of the money goes to that, and, just little promotions like that, but it's still going to go toward that. And maybe not so much when I first open up, but that is one of the things I want to incorporate. So when I do decide to do it, would I do that as a separate class for my P&L, or just do it regular on the P&L?
Well, when you talk about class, I don't think you have to do it with a class. Churches, classes are used in this way. So classes are not automatically used. It's just in certain situations. So I would think that you would more use an account to track.
Okay.
Like when you did your daily sales receipt, and you can like say, well, today we took in $20 extra. Somebody gave toward this special fund we're doing, right?
Yes.
And so you would create an item that's going to direct that special money to go sit somewhere on your chart of accounts. I'd have to think about it where I thought I would really want. I don't want to call it is income, but I would always maybe call it other income.
Right.
I would say special funds. And then whenever you have a good cause and you want to spend that money, then write you a check called other expense, and where you emptied out that. It's kind of like the designated funds, because they are giving it, and maybe you do want to put a class on there. It's kind of like designated funds. They're designating it for this charitable thing you're doing. You know what I'm saying?
Right, because I would only want to use that money to actually, all of it would go to whatever cause it is, so it wouldn't go into the business, so to speak.
That's right. That's right. Just like the people that give the youth money, just like we used an item called youth, you want to create an item that would track this special money.
Okay.
Okay.
And so it's kind of the same way. It's designated money.
Okay.
All right, folks. On YouTube, if you go to YouTube and search Jeff Weathers QuickBooks, you'll see the class from last week. I mean, really, the more you hear this, and I teach these classes, and a lot of people, they come back, and we'll do it next 6 months or 5 months. They'll come again. The more you hear it over and over and over, because that's kind of the way I teach, is I kind of just say it. I say it a different way. I say it again. But I think the more you hear it over and over and see it, it sinks in, you know?
Right.
And we're at Uptown Shelby, so if you need to get a hold of me, my business out front, it says Biz Hub. It's on North Lafayette Street going into downtown Shelby on Lafayette Street, right beside the banker's house.
Well, folks, I want to thank you for being here tonight. I hope you picked up enough information to add it to last week's session. And now you're a pro at QuickBooks, thanks to Jeff. Good job tonight, as usual. And folks, hope you be successful with all your business ventures.
Well, I thought this
Thank
class
you.
went to 8:30. Do we have more question time or
You
no?
got more questions? Sure. Jeff's going to be here.
Okay. So my question is, I don't know if we really went into this, but let's talk about reoccurring expenses, rent expense, utilities. Is there a way where I can say at this, this will happen every month, every time?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yes.
So I tried to YouTube that yesterday, and I couldn't. It was above my head for a second.
So that would be like memorized transactions.
Memorize, where am I?
Memorized transactions. So if you go to list, memorized transaction list.
Oh, bam.
Okay. So if I click on that right there, let's say I've got to pay the rent every month on the first of the month. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So first thing you probably want to do is I want to create a group where it happens every month. So I'm going to come to the bottom left corner and I'm going to create a new group.
Bottom left corner, create a new group. Okay.
And I'm click on a memorized group, and I'm gonna call this group monthly bills. Okay.
Okay.
All right. It says add to my reminder list. Do not remind me or automate transaction entry. You can choose whatever you want to, but right now we'll set it up to add to my reminder list. So how often? We're gonna say it's monthly. Okay. So let's say it is the first month is, let's say it's December the 1st of 2020. Okay. So add to my reminder list monthly on 12/1/20, right? So I'm going to hit OK. So I've set up my group, right? And now I can put as many like my monthly bills in it that I want to. Okay. So let's go to the home page. And so do we want to memorize a bill or do we want to memorize the payment, the check?
Both.
Which one would you like to memorize?
I'm trying to find it on your homepage. It wouldn't be an icon on your homepage, would it?
No.
Okay, because I'm like looking for it because I'm trying to follow
the
along.
memorize transactions. If you go to list,
and
you see where it says memorize transaction list, it teaches you a shortcut.
Oh, bam.
Control T. So if I hit Control T, it takes me right into my memorized transactions.
Okay.
Okay. So let's go to the home page. We want to, let's say I just want it to show in my register every month a check that I got to pay $500 rent, right?
Sure.
Okay. So I'm going to go and write that first check. So I'm going to hit write checks. And so I'm going to say paid to the order. I'll just put landlord. Landlord. Okay.
Can we call it something
Tab
else?
over. I'm going to do a quick add,
Vendor.
and that's going to be a vendor. Let's say I've got to pay him $500. Okay. And then I've got to assign that to an expense account, right?
Right.
So I'd probably want to use what?
Right.
Rent expense. Okay. I want to get this set up in my memorized transaction, so I'm not even going to hit save and close. I'm just going to hit memorize. Memorize. And so then it says add it to a group or add it to your reminder list. So I want to add it to a group. Okay. And the group name is called monthly bills.
Bam.
And I'm going to hit OK. Okay. All right. It put it out there. So I don't really want to save this one. So I'm just going to back out of this. I'm just going to X out of it.
No.
I just wanted to create it in my memorize. So now if I do Control T, I will see it out there. And so every month I can put as many as I want to out here under monthly bills. And when I click on 12/1 and hit OK, it writes that check. Puts that check. If I go look at my check register, I should see 12/1, $400 to the landlord. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if I go back to Control T again, it rolled forward 1 month. So next month I click on it. It's January the 1st, 2021. I hit OK. It's put that in my register. Okay.
That's so easy.
You can tell it to memorize invoices, memorize bills, memorize checks, whatever you want to do.
That's fantastic. Just because, I mean, things that you're going to be doing every month, do you know?
So like my house,
Yeah.
I'll memorize, like I got 5 or 6 bills every month that I got to pay. AT&T, Dish, whatever. And so I will go to my memorized transactions and click on that date, and it'll throw all 6 bills into my bill pay system.
Yep.
And then I'll pay them as I know what they're going to be. You know, the amount might vary. And so they're already in my bill pay system. By me just clicking that date, it throwed all 5 or 6 of them into my bill pay system. And then I go to my bill pay system and I hit go to bill and I say, well, my Verizon bill this month was this figure. I changed the figure. It might pop in $300, but maybe this month it was only $265.
Yeah.
So I go to the bill and change it to $265 and hit save and close. But once you memorize it, it's out there in the memorized transaction, and you'll screw up at first. Like, let's say the landlord raised the thing. So you open it up. He said, well, I'm going up to $600. So you change it to $600. You can't hit save and close. All you can do is hit memorize.
Okay.
So you can change it in the memorized area. I'm going to memorize it, and I'm going to say replace it.
Yeah.
And then I got to back out. I don't want to hit save and close because it would
go to reconcile or the record.
It would go to the register. Well, I
Okay.
just really wanted to change it here in the memorized area. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay. So you can memorize, like I said, you can memorize invoices, you can memorize checks, you can memorize bills.
Accounts payable, receivable.
So if you were running if you were a property management company and you had 50 rental properties, you could put all 50 of them in your memorized transaction list and hit that date, and it would create all 50 invoices instantly.
Perfect.
And then you could email each one of them out. And in QuickBooks, if you set up Intuit payments, it'll have a view and pay link on the bottom of it where they can pay you, and it wires the money from their bank account into your bank account, and that costs $3 a pop. So every time whether they paid you $50 or paid you $5,000, it's $3 pop.
No matter what.
No matter what, if they pay through the Intuit payment network.
Do you like the service?
I love the service.
Okay.
I send out lots of bills and I bill my clients using the Intuit service.
Sure.
Because I just send them the invoice. It's got a view and pay link. They click on it. They put their routing and their account number in. I can't see it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll get an email, so-and-so paid you, you know. So,
Do you charge them the $3?
no.
You take the hit.
I take the hit.
Also, so I was also like, today I was setting up my own, like last week we were talking about your personal account, and I was like, I wonder what if I can do with my own personal account. By the way, I'm terrible.
So you're setting up your own company then?
Yeah, so my own personal, but then it kept on going to the bank, and I was like, should I connect my bank to this?
No.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, that sounds terrible.
Well, I mean, if you're real on it, if you're real savvy, you might could do it and get away with it. Now, I'm all for your credit cards. I'm all for going out to your Capital One and exporting all the purchases into a file and then importing that file into QuickBooks.
Okay.
Because that's purchases.
Yep.
Usually most business checking accounts is a little more messy because you're talking about income too, not just purchases. And so it gets really messy if you feed in. That's why QuickBooks Online is such a wreck, because it constantly feeds in. That's the way QuickBooks Online works. It's hooked straight to your bank account, and it's feeding in all the time. And people see all this stuff feeding in, and they don't know what they're doing, and they say match, add, done, and it just it makes a big old mess.
Yeah, I'm still learning. This next week they're doing. I think one of the colleges is doing QuickBooks Online. So
You're at.
Let me go to my Google Calendar real quick.
That's fine. It's it's Nashville though, right?
No. I take them all. I take them everywhere.
Oh,
I just go to that online, the small business online, and I'm like, oh, bookkeeping or accounting classes. So the small details. This one is being taught by Southeastern Community College Small Business Center.
Okay. Are you going to try to master QuickBooks Online also?
I signed up. Where are you? I signed that up today. And because I don't have my LLC yet. But I just put myself as like Kristen Robinson's LLC, just for whatever. And I started taking the classes today, and QuickBooks Online is weird. That's all I have to say. It is weird. It's nothing
different.
like this.
It's very different.
But then I have one of my good friends runs a bookkeeping company out in Colorado, and she only works on QuickBooks Online. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
And she's working with multi-million-dollar companies that are running QuickBooks Online. And I'm like, holy cow.
Yeah.
But that's to each his own.
Yep. I've been trying to like it for probably at least 9-10 years.
Sure.
And I hate it. But I kind of know it. I know it pretty well. I know how it works. It's just so different.
Yeah. It is so different.
So
I mean, I probably got 2 hours in, and then I was like, and I went down some crazy rabbit hole on YouTube again. I was like,
on YouTube, you can really find anything. You can Google, but you got to say desktop or online, because you'll be reading stuff about, you think it's desktop, but it's really talking about online. So you gotta, they're two different animals.
Wicked two different animals. And that's like, but then it's, getting that QuickBooks accounting, where they order the QuickBooks through you, and then you give them the product code and all that jazz. Learning about that, where the company buys a QuickBooks through your accounting program.
Yeah, I really don't mess with that too much. I usually direct everybody to softwarediscountcenter.com.
That's what I have from last week.
That's got the best price, and it's very convenient and reliable. And,
Yeah.
and I'm always looking out for the customer too. You know, I'm trying to save you as much money as possible.
Yeah, and I appreciate it.
You don't have the accountant's version of QuickBooks, do you?
No, I have Pro.
The accountant, you probably would want to get the account. You might probably want to join the QuickBooks Pro Advisor program.
Okay, that's something I got to Google now. Thanks.
QuickBooks Pro Advisor program. It costs maybe about $380 or something. But you have to pay it every year, and you get the latest edition, accountant's edition of QuickBooks, because you've got to have the same year that your client has. But right now, what do you have? 2020?
I have 2020.
And so you want to definitely get 2021.
Because I just bought it a week ago.
So you probably want to send it back. I'm just wondering if you contacted Intuit, if you bought, because they're saying if you bought it within that window,
that 90 days.
Well, you can get a refund, but if you bought it during the purchase period, which is July the 20th to September the 20th, that you can get a 2021 version.
Well, I'm gonna contact QuickBooks, Intuit, and see what they have to say. Because I contacted the company I bought it from. The customer service rep was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I was like, awesome.
Who'd you buy it from?
Some Tech Pro, somewhere that one of my, another buddy who is in a, CPA, she's like, oh, I always buy from there. Use this,
Yeah. How much was it?
It was $179.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, and then I'm just going to write the $179 off as, not office supplies, but
that's what
equipment needed. Because, right, it's anything over $50 for office, then.
No, you go ahead and expense it. Don't worry about 200. No, it's a lot more than that. You can expense it right away.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a. I put that under dues and subscriptions, but I pay it every year though. So
sure.
You would probably put it under office expense.
That's what I put it under, is office expense.
And the chart of accounts, I usually rename office supplies to be office expense. More broader term.
Sure. What other questions? I'll probably have more questions by next week too. But
there's no class next week.
Wait, it's a third week in 3 weeks?
No, we don't. This is part 1 and part 2. This is part 2.
I thought there was a third one. Maybe that's the online one.
What else?
It's for the online.
Yeah. What other classes do you have?
Yeah. Yes.
I pretty much teach this introduction to QuickBooks part 1, part 2. I teach at 3 colleges. So Isothermal and Cleveland Community and Catawba Valley. And it's basically the same 1 and 2. And then sometimes Steve will have me teach a payroll class on payroll.
Ooh.
Yeah.
QuickBooks payroll.
Yeah. Yeah. But there's a lot of training on YouTube.
Yeah. But I guess I've now got used to your style of teaching it, where you're just talking and going through. Do you know what I'm saying? The other day I was in that rabbit hole and I was like, where am I at again? Rewinding it.
Yeah.
So, hey, what was that print checks again? Like that company you use for the printed checks?
It's called Compu,
yeah.
checks.com.
Okay.
Compuchecks.com.
All righty.
So you got the handouts that I that Steve sent out?
I got mine last week.
Okay.
No, I did send you an email though.
Yeah.
Huh?
Damn.
I sent you an email for you to send me.
Okay.
They're
Okay.
great.
All
I
right.
bet.
Beth, did you did you get anything out of the class?
I did. I think my main thing is recognizing your credits and debits, basically, on what function, where to put it.
Now, where did you come up with credits and debits? That's old school accounting talk right there. QuickBooks got rid of the credits and debits.
I know, that's how I still vision it.
Well, you're going to have to break yourself because really every time in QuickBooks when you hit write a check, there's a debit and credit that's happening in the background. And if you hit Control Z, you can see that debit and credit happening in the background. But you don't have to know it in your brain. You don't know, well, I got to debit this and credit that.
Right. I guess that's how my mentality is still trying to do everything. When you were going to each function, I was like, okay, how does he know that this one's the credit versus the debit? Yeah.
I don't know debits and credits that great. I do it, and then I go and look and see if I got the right results, and if it's not right, I go it and switch it.
Yeah.
I'm doing debits and credits.
Gotcha. So I think I aced today.
What? Ace?
I'm just kidding. But it's really good to actually just see the functions within, the system. And I think, like you said, I'm just going to need to repeat, 1 and 2 and get used to it. And, just look at it more often and maybe do some more tutorials, of course, online and go from there.
Go to YouTube, Jeff Weathers, QuickBooks, and you'll see the class last week. I don't know if Steve recorded this class or not. If he did, that would be great. We'll put that up on the YouTube also.
Yes, it is recorded.
Great. And it comes out good. I don't know if you looked at it on YouTube, but it come out really good.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for today.
Well, you're welcome. I'm glad y'all came. Stuck it out with me.
Yeah.
So we'll do it again soon sometime.
Thank you very much. I learned a lot. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks.
Y'all have a good
You
night.
too.
You
Good
too.
night.
Thanks. Bye.
And you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.